Coming up next on Pedal the Springs podcast, we're going to be talking about the post-ride wrap-up of the Rampart Rager. Cheers, Matheny.
And not just the post-ride wrap-up, but the party.
The party, too. Welcome and roll on in to Pedal the Springs podcast, where we banter about all things biking in Colorado and the Pikes Peak region. I'm your host, Torie Giffin, self-appointed ambassador for cycling in the Springs. And what I don't know about biking in this area, my friends do. And here is today's guest, Daniel Matheny, race course director, co-producer of the Rampart Rager. Welcome, Daniel. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. It's a Friday night. What are we doing? We're starting the party here and our friends are somewhere else, right?
Yeah. Sun's going down and it's been a full Friday already, so.
Yeah. we got Jason is tired after a ride.
I think he got some compliments from Leroy and he wanted to go out and start training again. So I think he put himself in the hurt locker.
He put himself in the hurt locker. So our other race coordinator, Jason, is not here, but and we also invited Nick with Criterion Bikes, our sponsor, for a little wrap-up time. But really, like, you are the man when it comes to this ride and the course and marking up the course, kind of knowing how everything went. You lead everybody out. So tell me, like, just initially, if you could, in one word or even one sentence, your thoughts on this year's ride.
I would say, can I use 2 words?
You can use 2 words.
It was like race culture or vibe, if I had to use one word. Like, I think we're finally getting it back in the Springs. If that's explaining it, but yeah, the vibe that we had there was awesome. We've been trying to rebuild back after a few years of, COVID and stuff like that, of the hiatus, and even having some snowy October,
yes,
where the race got shortened due to like weather. And I feel like we've kind of worked on some dates and listened to what the feedback is from the riders and the racers, and the experience was. We really nailed it, I think, this year and had a good turnout, and the energy was there. So it was fun to see.
It was quite a sight. And if we can roll the video on this, so you'll have to go to our social channels to check it out. But the sight of anywhere, I think we were somewhere between 140 and 175 riders this year. I think we might have had 175 at least registered. It gets tough to know sometimes on race day, whether everybody got checked in and everybody finished. So we're still trying to kind of figure some of those numbers out, but it was a huge field and it was a really impressive field. It was like we had some world-class racers there. Yeah. Who was there?
We had quite a few people. I mean, there were some locals that came that are here in school here at CC. Like Robbie Day showed up from the Bear National team, who was second in Elite Mountain Bike Nationals this year. Had just finished Breck Epic, and then some of the guys that actually even finished above him were, other local guys like Griffin, I forget, Hoppin, I think is his name, that took the KOM, and some other locals that were just really strong. So we had a good showing there, but it's not just, I would say, like the front of, like the pointy end of the race, but there was just a lot of people out there experiencing, the Pikes Peak gravel that we have here. And it's a very unique course, so it's, not everybody wants to do it, but it's also like, when you get up there and see the views and stuff like that, it helps people, get out of their comfort zone a little bit. So,
and it was perfect weather.
Yeah.
It was perfect weather. So August 24th, 2024, we ran the Rampart Rager. We have been in August before and had sweltering rides. I mean, they were pretty brutal in the past. We had moved the ride to later season. We had gone into October. But we really looked at the race and we thought that being an earlier season race would do better for us this year. And the weather just provided. Yeah. It was a glorious day.
Yeah. I mean, we've done it everywhere from October to last year. We were in September. September was great last year. Mm-hmm. It was a little cooler. I forget if it was last year or 2 years ago when we ran it during the little solar eclipse or the lunar eclipse. And it's like, there were like little fish scales everywhere, like in the trees up top. So we've had it everywhere, but I think it was more of just like trying to coordinate with all the local gravel events, because there's quite a bit here in southern Colorado. And last year we ended up being right on top of our, neighbor down in Pueblo, Grassroots Gravel. And obviously it's like we want to, it's kind of like, in my mind, a peloton. It's like, everybody can survive together and maybe a breakaway, or everybody's stronger together. But if you go out on your own, you may get gobbled up. So it's like we try to coordinate with everybody and at least not be on top, because we don't want to compete or, pull other participants away from those other local events in Canyon City or Pueblo or Trinidad or something like that. So
I think that really worked this year. And there's just so many more gravel riders now. Like it is getting big.
It's the jam. Like it's I feel like I ride a ton of mountain bikes, but gravel is like kind of the adventurous, semi-technical aspect that's safer than riding the road, but it's not as technically challenging as mountain bikes. So there's a lot of people that are not quite capable of getting out on the single track that would, embrace the gravel scene. And, it's, in my mind, getting off most of the main roads and stuff like that, where the speeds of cars are and the number of traffic incidents are less. So I think that's why it's growing. So.
And we did see not just the top field this year. We really saw a lot of kind of weekend warriors out there. I mean, they did not have special bikes. We saw some mountain bikes. We saw all kinds of bikes, all kinds of shapes, sizes, ages. We have... oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the one woman. She rides with me with my club and Manitou Spokes, and she's an older lady, and she just killed it this year on the 50K. But the one that really touched me the most, because we had the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort rest stop, was the first and last rest stop up at the top of Rampart. And the one that really got me was the young lady who, this was her first gravel race ever. And she was still 2 miles from the 50K turnaround at 105. And I asked her, I said, did you want to ride back down? There's still a long way to go.
She wanted to finish that thing.
She wanted to finish that thing. And she did. She was the last rider in. What's the name of the last rider in?
It's called the
Lanterne Rouge. Yeah, Lanterne Rouge. She was out of the 50, 70, and 100K. She was the last rider in. I
think I saw her crying tears of joy. That
she was crying tears of joy. Yeah.
But that's what's so great about it. It's like any bike. I mean, I even rode my mountain bike with. It's kind of like what I call like my Grodeo, because it's like a mountain bike with gravel tires, but I ride it on the road too with oversized chain rings, and it's like, it's great. But it's like even some of the top pros chose to ride a mountain bike because of like the descent. It's obviously like with the, I'm going to deem this now the Cascade KOM, because it goes up to the Cascade overlook on Rampart. But it's like, we also put up prize money for the first, people that were up, first female and first male. So KOM and QOM, but it's like, the fast people are riding a variety of bikes and I even told some people from the local CLS racing team that were, trying to decide. And I was like, yeah, ride your mountain bike. You'll be great on that. I haven't ridden it on a gravel bike since like the first year it happened. So you can do it on whatever you want, and there's no discrimination. That's what's good about it.
So let's talk about the KOMs. How did that go?
Seemed like it blew some people's mind because of how fast it went out. I think last minute, a bunch of fast people really showed up, and even some of our previous winners and KOM holders and QOM holders were kind of set off a few spots because of, when you put prize money up in a competition for like it being a, self-proclaimed Regional Hillclimb Championship, it brings some people out of the woodwork. So yeah, it was good.
Now, speaking of prize money, I mean, really, Nick Ponzer, the owner of Criterion Bike Shop, he is really the, he powers this ride. The prize purse really makes a big difference in who you can get out, when it comes to big talent. And even though the ride's for everybody in all levels, the talent really makes the ride for a lot of people when they get to ride alongside of some of these people.
Yeah. I mean, some people could care less who's there because they're doing it for their own experience or they don't know who they are. But some people also, enjoy the fact that, status people show up at these events. And even like, I think because of how we rearranged our schedule, there was somebody here like Dylan Johnson who's like a big YouTube figure. He was a coach I used to work with, kind of like we just didn't cross paths when I worked with CTS. But he showed up because he was, on his way for Steamboat Gravel, and Trinidad Rad is here. So he's just on an altitude block. And so his girlfriend, I think it was his girlfriend, maybe I'm overstating there, somebody traveling with him, let's just say that. She raced and set the QOM. She won the women's race. And he rode the course several times out there and saw him on the ride. And I know several people at the event were stoked about that because
they were very. At the end of the race, all I kept hearing is, "Did you see that Dylan's here? Did you see that Dylan's here?"
It's like some people didn't know who he was, but he's got a big following on YouTube, and it's like he does a great job with his coaching and videos and stuff like that on performance. So it's like that's kind of cool that he was out there at the event. He rode up and down while the course was. It's like. I talked to him beforehand. I was like, come on, man, just get out here and race. And, before we even left, he was kind of looked like he was sweating bullets. So I think he was getting rid of whatever sickness he had. And that's why I didn't race Steamboat. But it's, it would have been cool to have him out there. But it's, I think as we, get better on our consistency and, continue to work on improving this race for, all the riders, as well as like, from the top end of the field all the way down through the riders that just want to experience, what we have in Colorado Springs and Pikes Peak area, then, it's going to continue to grow, I think.
So what do you think's top of mind for riders? What do they want to hear from us in a post-ride wrap-up? Like what kind of, we're touching on a lot of stuff, but are there other questions that you heard out there that we could answer for people post-ride?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we even posed to a lot of the riders and racers there during the awards ceremony and things like that is like, the way I see it is constant forward progression. Like if you're not moving forward, then you're kind of moving back. And so we're always asking them for criticism and stuff. And, I think as we grow back, we're not a, independently funded event. We're kind of, bootstrapped and doing this, with sponsor money from the local people and on our own time and trying to make it work. And so we're trying to build back kind of organically, not to use a cliche term. Mm-hmm. But I would say, we're taking all that feedback in of, we only had a few, age group separations and prize categories, and we've expanded that to where it was only like the the longest distance and the fastest people at one point, to where we're offering prize money to different durations and both genders equally, to where now I think we were talking about spreading the age groups a little bit differently, so there's not
I had some
45 plus racing with the 70 plus or something like that.
I had some college racers that felt like their field was pretty big, college age up to, what was it, 40?
I think it was
60.
I think it was 45.
45, okay.
See, and
Sorry,
I'll date myself because it's like I ended up, I told Jason's mom.
They still play. She still plays. Yeah. My college racer still plays.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I think it's, it was basically junior, and then there's kind of what I consider the senior category, but it was like 19 to 45, which kind of, and then 45 plus was the masters. Yes. And so what I'm thinking is probably like a grandmasters, like move the age group up on that one and then make another division between there. But obviously it's like we can't give everybody awards either because it's not, it's like just hand them out all day long. But we want to have people competing with their, respective closer age disciplines. And it's like, I told Jason's mom to give me a number plate. I was like, I'm going to do the lead out, but since the aid stations are all set, and I'm going to, I may roll out and just do the race and see what the experience is out there. And I ended up doing the whole thing with the riders this year. And it's funny because I think I got 6th overall, but I was the person that was like the fastest old guy in that 19-year-old category, but I didn't win anything because all the fast young kids. So, yeah.
So some of the feedback I heard was the neutral start through the Garden of the Gods, that maybe we might have needed to. It might have been a little too hot, that we might have needed to spread that out into 2 groups or something.
Yeah, we may have to split that up because the start going up, what is it, Columbia out?
Yeah.
There's we go through a little dirt, and there's some fences and gates that we kind of have to go through before we get on our, proper parade loop through Garden of the Gods. And that's such a unique way to start it. And it's great where the lodge is to be able to do that because we don't hit any main traffic with the group rolling right out, but it also creates some log jams at those pinch points. And so what I heard was farther back, there's always going to be kind of an accordion or yo-yo when that occurs, because obviously there's some horse paths and gates and stuff that cause those pinch points. And there was a couple minutes between the front and the back. Obviously I was in the front trying to, I was doing it by power and holding back the reins, but I'm being swarmed up there because everybody's, chomping at the bit, fresh, ready to go for the, the KOM or QOM. But it's up at the front, it's relatively easy, and that's intentional. But also, obviously, when you get that accordion effect, more yo-yos happen the farther you go back. So probably having another neutral lead out or a split in there to, maybe a different wave. So
what about the road conditions? We had I heard some people think that it was pretty washboardy, but then other people were like, well, this is actually better than it's been in the past. So what were the road conditions like this year?
I would agree with the latter. I think they were better. Like, there were spots where you could find good lines more, I think, because of the heavy rains we'd had the week before. I'd just done the Colorado Trail, which is a huge ride all the way across Colorado, and it's monsoon season. That's not what you want when you're at high altitude, but I think for our event moving into that, August timeframe at the kind of tail end of monsoon season helped us out because it tamped down quite a bit of that.
Yeah, they said it's a lot better than riding all that, all the loose stuff.
And even from like the things behind the scenes that a lot of people don't realize is like, we deal with the Forest Service and permits and things like that. And the new kind of head of the Forest Service came down and was like, I really like this new date change because there's not as many people up like looking at the leaves and stuff like that later in September when you guys had it before. And I thought there was less traffic. Like, I was out there on the road.
I was surprised. Like, I would have thought that they closed the road down. There were, a handful of cars that might have come, and those were the people coming up to relieve me so I could get back down to the after party from the rest stop. So.
Yeah, it's kind of a love-hate. Like, it's like I've been up there in my van and vehicles and stuff setting the courses, and it's like the weekend of the event, it's like, I'm just like, I'm done with Rampart Range Road because it's like I've used it for like Apex races and stuff too, and it like rattles you to death. On a bike, it's not as bad, honestly, like climbing up and doing that kind of stuff. But I would say they did some grading this year in the spring on Rampart Range Road that really turned up some heavy, like kind of just knuckle-sized chunks of like the granite we have around here, and they put some more rock down in certain areas. But it luckily smoothed out in time for the race for the most part. Mm-hmm. And some sections were like, there were still water puddles up top and stuff like that after the 50K mark up at the high altitude points. And so it was really, really good up there. I would say better than it has been in the previous years. Mm-hmm. So
I heard good feedback on the rest stops, that we had good fuel and nutrition out there. We had plenty of water. We actually still had water bottles left over for a water bottle handoffs. We were out there.
And I think those are some unique things that not a lot of people realize we do. Like I've worked for several events in the past and even still help with the Apex and stuff like that. Like for a small event that we have that's kind of just this like small local gravel event, it's like we do bottle hand-ups at the aid stations that are pre-filled for, electrolyte mix. Like this year we had scratch and water hand-ups at both aid stations. And that's something that not a lot of events have. It's usually like, you either have somebody like if you're pro that goes out there and hands up your musette bag or whatever it is or gives you bottles, or you stop and fill up your own stuff and all that. So it's like the little details, from Jason's past of being a race director, but also his past as being a competitive racer and mine as well. It's like, I know what is nice when you're inside the race tape and you have a number plate on, and it's like, those little things make a big difference, even from the standpoint of like included with your entry fee is, a meal ticket that when you're done, you get to go over to the food truck that it's at Buffalo Lodge and grab a bite to eat right there. That's not a lot of events are doing that because it's like an extra, tack on money to the registration. So, but it's all included.
I do a lot of tour riding, so I bring, that kind of level of spoiledness to our rest stops and stuff and what we offer. I mean, we've had everything from boiled potatoes in the past, the pickled juice, but we actually had loaded up extra for our ride across Iowa this year and had tons of fuel and nutrition to share at the aid station.
And we haven't even had like EnduroBite, Brian Maslak from, EnduroBites is a local company here out of Colorado Springs, and their kitchen is just, not far from the event.
And they're so good.
Yeah. And they bring out their stuff, and they have that at the aid stations and stuff too. So it's like they have their, fig bars that are literally made probably that week at the aid station. So it's like it doesn't get any fresher. So
they're great. Their flavors are great. And then everybody was going crazy for their orange beet juice. I mean, we're selling it now. So that's another good thing for EnduroBites is that ever since they sponsored this ride, we started selling his nutrition at our Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort. So
they've got a small offering of products, but it's like, the things they do well. And so it's like, their nutrition bars are very minimal ingredients and they don't have any preservatives in them. It's like, that's why I use them myself. They're preserved with like coconut oil instead of like, stuff that you can't pronounce, and that's good. Their beet stuff, it's like, I've got, tons of athletes that I've got using that stuff now because they've been turned on to it, and it is a performance enhancer. And I was trying to get him this year to actually do like a recovery station at the end, because they've got like recovery protein, and I feel like some people would definitely take up his offer on that. He's got like a vegan recovery protein that's vanilla flavored, so maybe we'll get him to do that next year. So
Good.
Yeah.
Speaking of sponsors, it was so great to have Nick at Criterion Bike Shops out there handing out the checks to all the winners, and up there on the podium taking the pictures. But we had a new sponsor this year. We had Tim Bussey with the Bussey Law Firm, and they were our presenting sponsor, and they really stepped up big to help make this race happen, because as we grow and we get bigger, in order to keep the cost down, having those sponsors really makes a big difference.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously like we have entry fees and stuff like that, but with money going out for permitting and, permitting the garden even, like we have some new opportunities and stuff like that, but it's still, the cost per rider to produce an event like that with time and effort, it's not easy to pull off. So it's always great
web
to have.
hosting, all the printing, all the work and everything like that. So we just want to give a shout out to Tim and the Bussey Law Firm. They do personal injury, accident, criminal defense attorney, bicycle attorney. So check them out. And who else? Oh, well, let's talk about Matheny Endurance. I mean, you and Jason, this feels like a labor of love. I mean, nobody is, I've been involved in this ride for as early as we started the bicycle resort almost 8 years ago. And I was even involved before that when I was marketing for Chick-fil-A. We were a sponsor of the event, but this is a labor of love. I mean, so we should shout out. We should shout out you guys.
Well, I'm not
sponsors.
a sponsor. It's just, I'm like the same thing. It's like, I feel like I've got a good perspective of the number of years of racing, and then kind of like, because I see a snapshot into, multiple people's lives every day, being a full-time coach and, helping out with other large events now. It's like
with your Matheny Endurance.
Well, yeah, I mean, but also it's like
Matheny,
kind of a side gig of just doing some event promotion stuff, because it's like the racing culture and bike culture here, it seemed to be very struggling. It was more like the mountain bike scene and off-road scene was growing. The road scene kind of dwindled a little bit, but it's like, I just hate to see something not accessible to more of the riders. And it's like, talking to athletes I coach, and it's like, there's not a lot here. And that puzzles me. So it's like, kind of like the Gandhi quote of like, be the change you wish to see in the world. It's like, instead of complain about it, it's like, try to do something about it. And so that's what, I've kind of invested in.
Well, and that there's not a lot here, and this is literally a bucket list destination for the largest variety of cycling, and just what we have to offer in this community for cycling opportunities, to not have more of what you're offering for the coaching and the training, especially with the high altitude training, Olympic City, USA, all of that. And so I'm glad you're out there coaching and training. You coachbadasses.com. So you have to go to icoachbadasses.com or mathenyendurance.com, mathenyendurance.com. And then we want to give a shout out to Jason Middlemiss. He's kind of the mastermind behind all this, because it's like he's the race director that started this gravel grinder, before gravel was a thing. And it's like, he was early adopter to that before like it hit. Right.
And it's like, everybody's like, oh, this is cool. And it's like, yeah. And so, but he also did, some off-road duathlons and some other events. And he did like the Hillclimb series that was weekday up the Cheyenne Canyon or 26th Street. And it's like, he's always been an advocate for the riders. And that's even, I was trying to make some notes before coming in here, and it's like, that's one of the things I realized. It's like, I feel like we're riders, and we're trying to present this for the riders. That's why we always are asking for feedback. It's like, it doesn't matter what we want, it's what do they want. And it's like, we're trying to operate within a certain parameters that we can within permits and courses and things like that we can use. But obviously, like, we're putting this on for the community and the people because, just like we kind of joke about the after party being just as much as the ride or the event itself. And it's like, we don't want it to be just come out here and throw down and go home. It's, try to make a full day of it and, come out to the lodge, and otherwise we wouldn't have it at that venue.
Right. I mean, it is put on by local riders who really love riding and have passions for community. And so shout out to Jason's Viable Sustainability. He puts on this race, and it's definitely a labor of love. He does a lot of hard legwork. And so I would just say, shout out that if you'd like a big deck, he likes to build big decks.
He helped me build the deck on my house. And even like
he built the deck on my house.
And he renovated the rooms at the lodge.
And he renovated the rooms at the lodge. He's very talented. So, you just
don't catch him around like the August time frame, because he doesn't need too much going on with the brain to distract him from putting this thing on.
We don't no jobs in August when we're getting close to this race, and his kid is starting school and everything. I think, when we're talking about Jason, we also have to talk about Hunter, his 11-year-old son, who is a master drone pilot.
It's awesome. He's out there with like the full-on like VR goggles, and he's flying right over people's heads. He came out, he's like, you were out there on our pre-ride and everything, and he's like hovering right above us, flying down the roads while we're bombing down the descents at 25, 30 miles an hour. And it's just super cool that he's out there. And how old is Hunter?
He's 11.
11, yeah.
He's now doing videos for the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort. I actually think he's doing a lot of videos now. He's gotten a lot of jobs now. There's a lot of big people that actually want to hire him to be their pilots.
But that just goes to show, like, we're a small, like, organizing group.
Family.
And it's like we bring everybody in. Just like I said, like, Jason's mom was helping with registration and things like that. It's like, we're a small promotion company that's teamed up to try to make this a community event. And it's like, we want to see it grow. But
and if you saw at the rest stop, I had a friend, Oksana, who is in a wheelchair and paralyzed from the waist down. And she, when I said, did you want to come out and hand out water bottles? And I didn't know quite how that would work, but the opportunity for her to come out, and she's such a cheerleader. She's such a happy person and so positive. And the opportunity for her to be able to come out and help do the bottle handoffs, I think that was special. And I think some people really recognize what a unique experience that was for her also, to be out there supporting their race. My mom was out there. Yeah. She took over at the rest stop for me, even after she had a crash on her bike in the morning and stuff. But it's a whole family affair.
And I think that's one thing, like, thinking of, we need to push a little bit more to get involvement, because not everybody wants to ride up Rampart Range Road to the Cascade KOM, or some people just want to be out and experience or help out. So it's like, we need to be better about engaging a little bit more volunteer roles, because we're honestly pretty thin on that. So it's like, if we can get more people out there to experience what we're doing, I think we're always looking for people to help. And so, put that out there if anybody's interested.
And a volunteer coordinator.
As we grow, there's always more jobs and more obligations to work with, but it's like, that's a good problem to have, I guess. So,
what were some of your other thoughts that you were bringing into the studio today?
Some of them was like, the food truck, I think was a good hit, having food immediately afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Last year we had the tossed salad truck that had the really great either salmon or chicken wraps. Yeah. They weren't able to do it, I guess, this year, but you could have like a salad bowl or a wrap. That was really good. And really, when we put out the call this year, we potatoes sounded good, and like loaded baked potatoes with all the fixings. But
I thought it was good, because this year, like, somebody was like, what is this, poutine? And I was like, oh, that's a Canadian dish. It's like, my roommate in college is Canadian. And they were like, what is it? And I was like, it's basically just like smothered French fries. And it's like cheese or some kind of gravy. But it was good. I mean, I didn't get to eat mine right away, because right as I finally got my food, the awards started, and I was like, oh, it's getting cold. But it was good. I think the request was like some more options, but it's obviously hard, because there's only so much space at the lodge, and also the competition between food trucks is, they want to make a certain amount of money, as far as like their daily wage. So having competition is not always preferred, I guess.
And speaking of the awards, I mean, just as far as feedback, we know that the awards ran late this year. We had a little issue with trying to get help up at our aid station 1 and 4 so that I could get back down for the awards. And I had tried to communicate that the checks were waiting down at the start. Like, I made sure everything was there just in case I couldn't get back, but somehow that communication got missed, and we
started the process, but also we had some like the last turn, I guess, coming into the garden. Like, we have to abide by rules of the road, and so we can't close down the Forest Service, or like obviously Garden of the Gods is a busy tourism place, and so we can't really close that down. So riders, but obviously when there's a start and finish line, people are going to do, haphazard things. So the last volunteer that came into the garden off Rampart Range Road kind of just decided to peace out before finish things. And so we had to reallocate people. And so Jason had to go out there, and, that's the things that behind the scenes we're kind of working on in real time whenever something goes down. So
I would just say that most everything that wasn't perfect, there was a good reason for it, and it shouldn't happen again.
Well, we did address the
at the
award ceremony, because even like I kind of slid it under the radar to Jason. I just put it out in one of those documents that we forwarded, and then I put 2 different award ceremonies, and he's like, I don't know if I approve that. And I was like, no, I just kind of slid it in there because that's something we need to do. People have been waiting for a while in the 50K. But the thing we also try to do is get the majority of the people in so they can experience awards. And
that's why we also do the prizes. Like, we give away some good stuff. We gave away a night stay at the lodge. I think we gave away free entry for next year. We gave away our ball caps and some booze. We also had the shot ski out there. That's one of the unique things about our finish line party and I was really surprised. I thought, sorry, I don't mean to be adding to the drinking culture, but we had the girls stepping up for the shot ski this year, and a lot of the guys were a pass. And so I would actually say bravo that we're controlling.
To each their own how they want to celebrate.
Yeah. But we had a lot more women taking us up on the shot ski this year. So
and that's obviously we plan to do 2 different award ceremonies this year, like one at 1:00 and then one later for the longer. They ended up kind of being somewhat smashed together because we had a delay in the first one trying to get more people in. Yeah. And even that one, we had people that weren't present from the podiums because of the time spread between, the first finisher and like even the, top 5s. So we were getting updates to full podiums as we were doing it. So it's like, that's something we're aware of, but obviously we want more people as part of it. And that's why we do the food truck, and we have stuff there so people don't feel like they've got to, jet somewhere else and do that kind of stuff. And there's, obviously inside the lodge, there's, a bar and, hangout place.
Bathrooms.
Whether you be inside or outside.
You said lodge. I just remember bathrooms. So we were a bigger race this year. In the past, the lodge has been great with the restroom facilities that we've had. But we got twice the size this year. And so,
we barely got the number of like race day registrations registered in time for the pre-rider like kind of spill. And
we had so many same day registrations this year. It was really, really wild. So do make that decision ahead of time if at all possible. And we will get more porta potties for ahead of the race next year. Exciting stuff. Anything else?
No, I think honestly, I think it's a good event. We've taken note of what people have been sending us, and if you haven't, feel free to reach out. Like, we're on, our information's on the website. You can always send a contact form as well. But it's like we're doing this for the participant. We're putting it on for you guys and girls to have a good experience. So, we're also going to work on a little bit better kind of like people at the different turns. Like, obviously the 50K is well noted because it's an aid station as well, but the kind of in between is the 70K. It's not as well like a prominent, and that's also like, you saw the first aid station and that point. There's very little traffic to there, but with it being before September 5th, the Rampart Reservoir is still open. So once you get up by that, there was a little bit more traffic with kind of kayakers and people going up to the reservoir. But it was a little bit more confusing up there. So I think we're going to get some like volunteers or people to help out for the turnaround spot at the 70 and a little bit more kind of like kind of maintenance, I guess, on the outer 100K loop. But I would say that's one thing that if you want to really experience like that 10-mile loop that's out on the 100K course is kind of the cream of the crop. Like if you can get out there to that thing, it's like there is a washboard section up on the meadows past the 70K turnaround, but after that there's like an oiled section in front of all these houses. I would say it's better than the asphalt down here in Colorado Springs. So
do you think we could like do a jump ahead option? Like people can pay to jump ahead, to
it's like a little Mario Kart button where they like bounce ahead. I don't know if we could do that. It's like everybody's got to endure that section, but that's the most fun. Even like I marked it the night before and rode it because it's like it's narrow and twisty and turny, and it's like aspen trees and all the high altitude stuff. And it's like if you can get out to that point, it's pretty cool. And that's why I think we do the events is like, you have aid stations, you have the support, you don't have to carry all your stuff with you. You know that you've got good
I do
stuff.
think that like we might throw a mechanic up at the at least the 50K turnaround because we do have more of the amateurs, I think, hitting that 50K route, and it might help if we get a wrench up there, but at least we'll do a better job getting like tools and stuff up there. But this is, from what I understand, this is one of the most beautiful courses, one of the best climb challenges anywhere.
Well, that's the thing. It's like we did the Regional Hillclimb Championship, and I've been talking a lot to the other promoters. Adam and Adam are both different promoters at Grassroots and the Crippler. And even Rampart Range is unique because it's actually like a categorized gravel climb, which there aren't many of, I guess. There's like a whole database of like different categorized climbs all the way here in the U.S. to overseas. And Rampart Range is one of those because it holds a certain gradient for a certain amount of time, so it's unique. But also down there in Beulah where they do the Grassroots events, they actually tried to like put on an event, a hill climb championship on what's called 12 Mile Road that goes out of Beulah there, and it's very similar to that. And it's like we have unique gravel in this region, and so it's like kind of not renaming it, but just promoting the fact of this is like Pikes Peak gravel. It's different. It's like it's not what you have everywhere else. It's not out on the plains. It's like it is climby. It is what we call scree. It's that decomposed granite that we have here. It's a little bit different, but it's like that's the experience. And it's like, a lot of the people here know it because we use it as our training grounds, and it accesses a lot of other things from mountain bike trails to other networks. But getting people from out of town, I saw some different people here, from the coaching aspect that we're training for, say like, well, I'm using this as a gauge to how I do it, Leadville 100 for next year, or maybe I can get into these other big mountain events. And so it's like, we have a lot of great training grounds here, and so even if you just use it as an event to prep you for another one, that's what some people come and use them for.
So I do think that I saw a lot more people actually staying at the lodge that were doing the race this year, coming from out of the area, especially other parts of Colorado. And that is one of the other unique things I think about this race is you can literally ride out of your room to the race start right at the hotel or at the resort. And so I think that, and we also offer a discount. So if you're coming for the Rampart Rager, you can get a 25% discount on your lodging, and you can roll your bike right in the room and hang it on the wall and ride out to race start in the morning and at race start in the morning. And it's just glorious. I mean,
that's a great thing. It's like, Torie doesn't toot her own horn, but it's like the Buffalo Lodge the whole theme is a bicycle resort. And it's like, there's bike racks all out front. It's like they encourage you to have your bikes in there with you. Right there from the start finish is your room. And like, it's not a hotel like, that you would think of like multi-levels. Like go look at it online. It's actually like a resort where all the rooms are single level except for some that, above the main lodge. But it's like, it's not a typical hotel, but it's like everything is kind of keyed around that. So it's like, if people want to come in for that vacation and not just for the bike race, they can stay multiple days and then
bring their family. I mean, we've got the swimming pool, and we've got the volleyball, and we've got we now have the glamping yards, and you can take over the glamp yard with your whole family.
Yeah. And even like,
the music.
She does awesome. Yeah, live music is, every Friday and Saturday night. And
we got a bar.
Not just for the event, but it's like even when the awards are over, it's like I would almost rather push them later so then people can just hang out and roll right into the live music. So it's like, if you're going to make a day of it, it's like, make a day of it. So
you know what that would require? I just had an idea, another Torie wild idea. If we had on-site shower, because we have pool showers, but if we brought a shower truck, people could potentially stay later and enjoy the party all the way into the evening with our live music and bands and everything.
Yeah. I mean, I know people were wanting the podiums earlier and stuff like that, but there's other events that I've done where you have to show back up that evening to get the awards. And it's like they encourage you to go home, clean up, do whatever, and then they bring people in for like a, rider meeting kind of / presentation that evening. And it's like, we could do something that way. I'm not saying we should per se, but it's like there's different models for everybody. And so it's like, I would encourage people just to hang out and enjoy it because that's the fun of it.
So we want to hear your ideas. You want to post them on our Rampart Rager Facebook page or send us an email. Let us know what you think and your ideas for how to make it great next year. We're talking about, if I think that we're looking at, do we keep the same route? Do we go back to the old route?
There's been some.
We've had some different.
There's been some discussions about.
So we actually want to know if you've done the old route, if you've done the new route. We want to know what your preference is.
There's some logistical challenges with it because obviously, if you're listening and you are watching and you don't know what the old route is, it used to do an entire big loop all the way up and then around down Mount Herman and back down like the Santa Fe Trail. But obviously, with any kind of, like I said earlier, timed event. There's other people on the path. There's those kinds of things. And so finishing it back at the lodge would be a little bit challenging. And so we've kind of spitballed some ideas around about how to make that work. There are some, what's called a party format or enduro format where it's like there's time segments that go on and off. So, almost like we time the KOM and QOM, we could do segments that way and then turn off timing in certain scenarios. But I'm the kind of guy that almost needs to have my enthusiasm tempered sometimes because it's like even if somebody goes and looks at the ride I did today, I'm like, man, I have Pikes Peak right on my doorstep. I can't can't discredit what this is. So I need to go utilize this. But it's like, I'll plan something way too audacious and then people are like, are you crazy? But it's like, I think that's why you sign up for an event. You do something that challenges you, that makes you kind of gasp a little bit. And it's like, all right, with the support of an event and aid stations and that, you can do bigger things than you think you can. And that's kind of what we want to help support.
Can we follow you and Jason on your Strava, or what app are you using? And where do you post your rides? Where can we watch?
Yeah, I'm on Strava, just my name, if you search on there. So it's like, that's why I'm a rider for the rider. It's like I get out here and do these events, and myself I have for years. And it's like, try to encourage people to get out there and have the adventurous side and do something audacious, because it's like, where you think your edges may be, they probably don't exist there. And until you push on them, you don't know what you're capable of. So
that's great. We have some great interviews that we did post-race with some of the winners. We did interviews with Popowski. We did interviews with our Lanterne Rouge, the gal that came in last. We have some good interviews. And so check them out on our YouTube channel at the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort. Thank you, Daniel, for coming and hanging out on a Friday night with me here in studio. Cheers. Thanks to Dave, our podcast producer, for staying here on a Friday night and dealing with all of our lighting challenges.
We can't complain, though. It's like I can see the sun setting over the mountain range to the west. It's like Mount Omagre and Pikes Peak right out there.
It's beautiful.
That's why we want people to come here and experience the Pikes Peak gravel.
You gotta come see the area, come see the sunsets, come stay at the lodge. Well, thank you guys for listening to the Pedal the Springs podcast on Studio 809. Pedal the Springs is brought to you by the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort, the only bicycle-themed lodging and must-stay for cyclists coming to Colorado. Check us out at bicycleresort.com for more information. Also, be sure to check out the show notes for links that we mentioned in this episode, and also hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. The Studio809podcast.com is your local voices of the Pikes Peak region. And it is The pedals. I don't know. I lost my notes. We've got. Maybe I've had too much moonshine and beer on this Friday night podcast. Be sure to check out the other fine podcasts at studio809podcast.com. Your local voices of the Pikes Peak region. Pet of the Springs podcast is produced by Studio 809 and recorded at the NextUs Studios, a professional cooperative environment for small businesses in downtown Colorado Springs. Cheers.
Boom.